Well, I'm back and it's the 8x10 this time. So here we are again, back at my favourite tree in my local forest. And I did say this time it would be 8x10, and 8x10 it is too. Now it's going to be very, very bright this morning. The sun is coming up to my right and it's going to be too harsh once that illuminates the scene fully. So I am here pre-dawn and I'm hoping to get the usual tree at its best. There's a little bit more greenery than last time I was here with a 4x5, but nothing excessive. I do have the camera set up and I have it roughly focused by using the little laser pen, a little red dot onto the tree trunk to give me a more accurate focus point. Just need to now work out my aperture and my shutter speeds and wait for the light to be just about right. I can't tell you how much easier it is using the loop to pick up on that little laser spot over on the tree. When it's this dull first thing in the morning, it's very, very difficult to see what's in and out of focus. It doesn't snap in and out with an f9 lens, as you can imagine. And this lens is also equivalent to 35mm. It's a 240mm Fujinon. So it's a little bit wide angle. As you know, with wide angles, they don't snap in and out of focus, not like a longer focal length. So that little laser pointer is an absolute godsend. Last time I used the bright white light pointing back. This time I'm finding it easier to pick out the tree with the red dot. Right, metering. I am going to rate the film at, I think, 200. I want a ton of shadow detail in there. I'm going to put the shadows on a zone 4. This is going to give it tons of detail in those dark areas. This will not work if it's soot and whitewash, so I'll just have to be careful of the highlights. So I'll take a few spot meter readings. Got my Sekonic now set to an ISO of 200. Just read around the scene. Okay, so deepest shadow at f45 is around 30 seconds. Now the highlights I'm looking at, which is the far bank with a bit of green grass. I'm not bothered about the highlights through the trees. We're looking at probably about 6 seconds, so 30 seconds and 6 seconds. It's not a bad brightness range actually, it's quite nice, so probably normal developments will do. I don't need to worry about pulling the developments and keeping the highlights down because there aren't too many. So yeah, the main tree trunk, 8 seconds itself, 15 seconds, 8 seconds. You know, 8 seconds would probably do it. And with a bit of reciprocity failure, make that 15 seconds. It's not an exact science, but 15 seconds at f45, plenty of exposure. Right, for those of you who aren't familiar with this camera setup, let me just explain what I'm using. This is the Intrepid 8x10 Mark I, first version that came out about, I don't know, 4 years ago or so. And I've got it coupled with a Fuji 240mm f9. Now this lens is a bit special because not only is it an excellent modest wide angle for my large format 8x10, but it also makes a short telephoto for my 4x5. It has enough coverage, which is the image circle, to actually cover both 8x10 and 4x5, with a little bit of movements allowed on the 8x10, so I can do a little bit of rise and fall and a little bit of front and rear tilt if I need to. However, this scene is pretty planar. I can't tilt the camera forward or backwards because I would get out of focus. Zones at the top and bottom of the frame. I have my 2 film holders with me. I just carry 2 film holders. This one has got HP5 Plus in it and the other one has FP4 Plus. I've chosen HP5 Plus because it has more than enough detail for this scene. It's going to easily cover the contrast range in there, but it does give me slightly faster film speeds, and I say slightly faster. 15 seconds isn't fast, but it's a lot faster than a minute or more, and there is a little bit of movement in the branches, so that would be a little bit exaggerated with FP4 Plus. Now this is my Velbon tripod, not particularly heavy, use it with all my other camera formats. Doesn't need to be heavy or large though, because the Intrepid is extremely light, probably only weighs about the same as the Bronica with a hefty lens on it, so easily able to support the camera in these conditions. And that's pretty much it. It's a very straightforward outfit, not too heavy to carry, and with one lens and a couple of film backs, it's about as simple as you can get. Well, I opted for standard development in HC110, 7.5 minutes, plenty of detail in the shadows there, highlights nicely controlled, well balanced overall. As you can see, the foreground has plenty of detail as well, pretty sharp for f45, and the background
Doesn't fade out particularly quickly. It's really better than I expected for that aperture rating. And obviously there's plenty of detail in there. You can see in this shadow area within the tree trunk as well. Just got what I needed there. Plenty of information in those deep shadows.
Well, I am hanging around now, having taken that first shot about 20 minutes ago, and I am thinking I want to shoot it with the same scene on this second sheet of HP5 Plus as a sort of safety shot. But I do want some different lighting. There's little point in taking two 8x10 images with the same light conditions, so I'm waiting for a bit more light to come through, but I'm also considering a slight change in position, maybe only a few inches or a few feet, just to give me something different to play with in the final edit. It's actually nice to see they've rebuilt the little bridge as well, although it's a little bit rickety compared to the original one. I'm not sure how long it's going to last, to be honest. Now, I decided in the end I didn't want to repeat that same shot. I have shot it so many times and I can come here anytime I like. I thought I'd try a different angle. I'd get close up on the tree, something I've not even done with my medium format cameras. So I've moved in towards the tree because I want to use some of that little bridge they've put in, that new little wooden log bridge. It's lovely, and it's just sort of caught my eye, and I want to actually do something with it while it's still here. So it's a 240mm lens again, because that's all I've got with me, and I've had to, as I say, get closer into the tree, which is going to create even more problems for depth of field. So I haven't got as much foreground in here, and I have focused on the very start of the little log bridge because that's quite easy to focus on, and that will soften as it recedes into the distance, even with f45. Now, metering actually turned out to be roughly the same because the shadow on the tree, which is the deepest area I want to show detail in, is still reading 30 seconds at f45, but the highlights are a little bit brighter this time. So if you look at the scene I'm shooting here, this is my initial aiming point for the focus because it's quite bright, and those little slats allow me to see the focus snap in and out a little bit better than this incredibly dull tree trunk. I'm still metering from this area down here. This is the deepest shadow I want to show, and that'll give plenty of detail in the tree trunk because it is 8x10 and I want to bring out as much detail as possible. Now, as I go over the little bridge, eventually it will start to fall out of focus, but I'm expecting to get probably the whole bridge in and some of the distant trees in acceptable focus, and that'll look quite nice actually as it softens into the background. Now, one thing worth mentioning here is I could barely see through the lens at its maximum aperture of f9. Now, when I stop it down to f45, I can't see a thing. I can barely make out anything, even with my little loop and the dark cloth over my head. So I am really doing a bit of that when it comes to how much is in sharp focus and what is soft.
Well, I'm really pleased with this composition actually. I didn't think it would work quite so well, but that little footbridge makes all the difference. Plenty of detail in there as always with the 8x10 camera and the HP5 Plus. But I'm also pleased at the way the depth of field has held up at f45. Going across that little bridge, not noticeably soft going towards the trees, although there is some wind movement there blowing the foreground branches obviously. But again, looking at the actual detail you get with the 8x10 camera, even with this fast film, I just love it. The shadow detail is perfect. I've got just a hint of information in there. I'm really pleased with this.
Well, I'm glad in the end I took a different composition. Worth developing the two sheets, two different images completely. Also glad that I took the second shot when I did because the sun has come up now. Really, really bright, too bright. So I hope you enjoyed this trip into the forest with the 8x10, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.